It's the SMX Insider post-race show from the Oakland SuperMotocross, where the track played a huge role in the outcome of tonight's race action. But for Jet Lawrence, massive victory. Clean racing, gets the win in the 250 main event. Next to RJ Hampshire, Cameron McAdoo, he celebrates after, blasts Jacob Hayes with the champagne. Happy night. Eli Tomac wins his heat, wins the main event in a huge bounce-back ride after a 5th place finish last week in Tampa. He answered the questions that were asked all week. What was that? Well, that was just an off night because Eli Tomac was fantastic tonight. And Ricky, we talked about the track earlier today in qualifying, and you said this track is going to play the biggest role tonight. And man, it was dynamic.
Oh, well, you had those 2 sets of whoops. So whoops, turn left, dragging back, which was really gnarly. Then turn right, another short set of whoops, which was really hard. Then you turn right again. Keep in mind, not a time to rest in between that, into a really difficult rhythm section before the finish line. And outside of that, think of the condition of the track and the dirt and just how it was going away and breaking down. Really, really tough.
Yeah, tough night of racing. A lot of guys were on the ground at the end of the night. Jet Lawrence and Eli Tomac do get the wins. But let's take a look at these 250 highlights. So 250 highlights from Oakland. 250 West main event. Cameron McAdoo was back after the big crash in Anaheim. RJ Hampshire was back after the big crash in Anaheim. Chasing this man, Jet Lawrence. And to start the race, they had him where they wanted him.
Well, they did. It was funny because you got RJ Hampshire, who was 3rd in points. He's in the lead. Cameron McAdoo, 2nd in points. He's in 2nd. And then the guy in the lead, Jet Lawrence, he was in 3rd, so it was reverse of the points. But I love the composure that the 18 had early on in that race. Didn't force anything and just let the race kind of come to him. That was a smooth pass by Cameron McAdoo. He's going to work up to RJ Hampshire, but he gets a gift. RJ goes into that first corner right there, leans the bike over a little too much. The front wheel goes over the rut, and then he'll play catch up from there. But that was a nice remount coming from a position where he didn't even know if he was going to race. But not much more than we can say about this guy right here. I mean, just in dominant fashion, and you just got to wonder, is he really not going to come onto that 450 class at some point in race?
Well, and that's the timeline. You've had this Daytona date circled for a long time. They said it's been an option, but you just don't know where they're going to go with that one yet. The anticipation builds. For Pierce Brown, Ricky, hardest charger of the night award. I mean, the guy was up front on the ground, but he just never stopped pushing.
It was a great ride for Pierce Brown. You think about it. I mean, this is the type of ride, like, I was so happy for him. So he overjumps that, right? He overjumps that whoop jumping through there, and then 48 McAdoo holds him up high on that berm, nothing he could do. So he remounts, gets back going, goes by Levi Kitchen right there. It's a nice ride by Levi Kitchen, by the way. Then he comes across the start straight right here and just pushes the front end, initiates the turn, and I think that corner had a ledge coming out, like the rut, and he just is putting a little too much wheel input into it, and he goes down.
Jet Lawrence with a massive lead. Oh, just kept pushing by the end. Just over 15 seconds. He grabs the win in Oakland, his 3rd win out of 4 races this season. Ken Roxon says, "What's up, man? Good ride?" Before Kenny goes to the gate for his main event. There's Jet Lawrence, RJ Hampshire, and Cameron McAdoo. 1, 2, 3 on the night in the 250 main event in Oakland. The results show Lawrence, Hampshire, McAdoo 1 through 3, Kitchen up to 4th.
Yeah, look at Cole Thompson inside the top 10. Mitchell Harrison, a great ride. Dylan Walsh
from the
was in the last chance. Yeah.
Bobby Wageman 12th, had a great heat race. Wow. Jason Thomas was able to catch up with Jet Lawrence after the race.
Jet Lawrence, your 250 main event winner. And you were pretty patient there. You kind of let the race come to you. I think you were trying to suss those guys out a little bit, and then got clear air and took off.
Yeah, no, at the start, once they're on the 3rd, I'm like, well, we got 2 of the boys that I'm competing with, who are the main top ones, also with me. So it was kind of like a bit of a chess game to see who was sending it and kind of just to pick the lines and that stuff. So I just stayed back there because tracks, the whoop section's pretty edgy. The rhythms are kind of like they send you a bit awkward. So I was just kind of waiting on mistake. I was able to get Cameron through the whoops. I'm pretty sure because he ended up making a mistake, like getting the triple. It might look easy, but it's actually pretty tricky how with all the cups, and then RJ ended up making a mistake, and so I was able to capitalize on that. But no, good night. Just kind of did my laps after that. But no, big shout out to the lads, HRC Honda. They've been great. We've been kind of just going through a lot of stuff today, and I'm surprised how I still have energy because I ended up throwing up my dinner right before the start. I was like, it was looking rough. So, but no, I'm pumped to be up here and back racing again.
Well, the Jet Lawrence momentum rolls on in Oakland.
And takes him to a 20-point lead in the championship. The battle for second is tight. Oldenburg's not that far out of it either. But now that Jet Lawrence is up 20, I'm going to ask you a really, really hard question right now from Jet Lawrence. I got to do it. Look, they've talked about the 450. It was part of the plan. And then when Oakland got moved, they said, now it's not part of the plan. He's 20 up. He's going to go do some 450 Supercross testing. They've already talked about that. Does he race it this year? Would he do it? Should he do it?
I think he should, only because forecasting to next season, and it comes from a mistake that I made throughout my career. I should have raced some opposite coast in the Premier class rather than just sticking to the East Coast class, because it would have kind of groomed me, and I would have had an idea of what to expect going into my Premier class debut. So I think he should. He has a healthy enough points lead. I think he has the mental capacity to really dial it back if he's in a situation that he doesn't want to be in, and because he's going to probably run up front. He's going to have the speed and the talent to do that. So if he can hold back those emotions and not get caught in the battle, I would like to see him do it. I think it'd be fun to witness, absolutely. So I don't know if that's going to happen. You hear so many things, but time will tell.
I've heard it's on, I've heard it's off, but 2 weeks from now we'll be in Daytona. That's the race that was talked about back in maybe December. So we'll see if he does that. For the SuperMotocross show, every single week on Thursday, it's SMX Insider with Jason Wygant and myself. You can go to supermotocross.com or go to YouTube and type in SMX Insider. It's every single Thursday. Fun night of racing, and in that 450 division, Eli Tomac had the big, I'd call it a big letdown. Do we call him a big letdown in Tampa, or is it the big confusion race? I don't know what you want to call that, but he answered the call tonight.
Well, he did, and I'm tired of talking about Tampa because now he's redeemed himself, and that's what I was just looking forward to see, how he was going to respond from that performance. I do know this about Eli, and I think you do too. I think Eli is one of those guys, if he's not comfortable, he's not going to push it, and that's probably why he doesn't crash a lot. He almost had a close one there on the last lap, why I say that. But and we didn't talk about it enough at Tampa, is like the conditions changed the whole night. It was a very hard surface to start with. It would rain, then it would stop. So when that's happening, with the track conditions change, the bike, the way it handles changes. So, you know, if he wasn't comfortable, that was one of those situations where Eli Tomac would dial it back. And guessing on the performance that I saw tonight, that's exactly what happened at Tampa. But you know, I talk about Cooper Webb a lot just because I know his capabilities as a champion and what he's able to accomplish when he gets some momentum. And he's close. You and I, when we were looking at the track earlier, and you go back in his championship years when there was tracks with 2 sets of whoops, that wasn't his best rides or best races and performances. And that's what we had here tonight, and he was still able to get second place. So if you're Eli Tomac, that has to be lingering in the back of your mind.
That Cooper Webb could be good in a situation that's not good for him. That is scary. 450 highlights from Oakland. Tomac, Webb, Sexton, we hyped it up. This title fight between the three. They've all been great at different points. Who would be great tonight when the gate dropped? And Chase Sexton, perfect start, drifts out, goes through corner number 2 with the lead, cleared track. And Ricky in the beginning, he just checked.
Just what the doctor ordered. I mean, this is what we want to see every single weekend. And it's funny because all 3 of these guys seem to be good starters. And that's what you have to do is put yourself in great positions. And as these guys have established the 3 front runners in the championship, they're going to continue to find each other on the track.
Barsha up the inside, little love tap to Colt Nichols.
Little elbow grease to Colt Nichols, and Colt Nichols have come back to have a pretty good finish.
Barsha said, how about you?
Yeah, cool. He got the best of AC right there, and I hate to see that for Adam Cianciarulo. He did the best he could other than just letting Justin Barsha go by. No one ever wants to do that, but these guys might want to consider it. Oh,
Anderson.
I didn't even see this happen. Hate to see it. This is a tough year for Anderson.
So Chase Sexton's leading. You had just said, maybe, did he break Tomac? Did it really happen?
Well, he was to that point. He was to the breaking point. to where probably Eli was going to surrender to second, and Chase was going to go ahead and ride on the victory. He probably could have dialed it back a little bit, but I think he was worried about that almost crash he had a half a track before that on the Dragon back, which was close.
Cooper Webb finds this cool rhythm, then uses it right here.
That was an awesome and a clutch move by Cooper Webb to do that rhythm lane in that sequence.
Later stages of the main event, last lap, Tomac's got it, or does he?
He comes out of that corner with just too much speed, over jumps it, front end plants, and then he goes off track. That was a heck of a save, and I didn't think it was over.
And how about this guy? He's just always, no matter what, he's just there. He's just sitting there.
If he was 2 bike lengths closer coming into that last corner, it would have been game over for Eli Tomac. He would have been off in the tough blocks there.
Checkered flag waves. Tomac gets the win, extends the points lead to 7.
And 48 wins.
That's right.
Tied for third most winningest Supercross racer. Look at the frustration. I think he gave it away. I think he gave it away early on.
Yeah.
If you remember, he made those mistakes in the whoop section. He lost so much ground early. Can't spot these guys.
He said on the podium the track came to him later, and you're right. The beginning half, he just seemed off the pace. And the 450 Supercross main event results: Tomac, Webb, Sexton, all on the podium, keeping it tight in the championship. Good ride by Aaron Plessinger.
Another
4-3-4. He's
right.
top 5 guy now every
And
week.
Anderson jumps back, but look at the notable Ken Roxon.
Yeah.
All the way back down to 11. Not sure if he had some kind of bike issue. You just have to assume that.
Bill Christian was able to catch up with the winner, Eli Tomac.
Thank you, Daniel. And we're hearing some chanting right now. I don't know if you guys can hear that. A few fans here in the house. Eli, congratulations on that win. Let's have a talk about the race first. Obviously, a couple of key moments there. You saw Chase go down. You were able to take advantage of that. And then you had your moment, and you knew Webb was right on your tail. So just talk me through that kind of switch of emotions there for you.
Yeah, I mean, my first goal was to stay just within touch of Chase in the first half of the race there. And then he fell over. I got into the lead, had good pace for a while. And then in the middle of the race, I was jumping the whoops and went back to skimming the whoops, felt good doing it. And then right there at the very end, Coop was close too. I went over the inside of that one first straightaway there and tucked my front end and then got spat off the side of the track. So that was really close, and just held on for my life at that point. I knew Cooper was going to give it his all, of course, as always, and but we were able to take it to the finish there. So key night for us too, and a good rebound.
And that rebound and that win there obviously tied you with Ricky Carmichael. You got to have a chat with him on the podium afterwards. I know these moments don't go into your head. You've told us before you can't think about them, you know, when you're setting up to race. But now you get to wind down. You get to enjoy the win. So now you get to reflect on it. How do you feel about that on reflection?
I mean, I find it pretty hard to believe, you know, that I'm tied with RC on the overall win record. So very cool. I can't believe it at this point. So thank you to my team, Monster Energy Yamaha, for making all that possible. And yeah, great night.
It was a great night indeed. Congratulations and thanks.
Well, RC, he tied it. Now he has to beat it.
Yeah, a monumental moment, and I think he's good for several more wins. I think James Stewart's all-time win record is at jeopardy this season for sure. You just have to assume that that's what Eli's going to continue to do. He's going to be good for another 3 race wins. I would say be uncharacteristic if he didn't, as well as he's riding.
He's up 7 now on Webb and Sexton, so it's still a tight fight. They've gapped the rest of the field. Anderson's 28 back. And for Chase Sexton, as tough as this night is, RC, he's still right there. So big picture, he's in this thing. But we do have to break down tonight. There is a trend. The trend won't stop. He says all the right things, but the mistakes continue. Where does he go from here?
For me and Chase Sexton, it's actions speak louder than words. Like the kid, he's got a bright future ahead of him, and he is he's a new generation style of riding. Chase Sexton and Jet Lawrence, guys like that. But he has got to eliminate this and figure it out. And you know what? With all the great people he has surrounding him, the only person that can fix it is him. And he's got to look in the mirror and think about what happens. Replay all these scenarios and break them down, kind of like how we're breaking down the races and giving our analysis. That's what he has to do. If he doesn't do that, then he can't fix it. It's like when I've helped people in the past, I'm like, okay, well, what happened? Well, like, what'd you do? How'd you lose your front end out there? And they're like, oh, I don't know. Well, how can we fix it? I only know what I saw, but if that's not what happened, you know, you have to identify what the problem is. And the bad part, I feel like right now for Chase Sexton is I don't think he says it comes out of nowhere, so we have to give him the benefit of the doubt that that's what's happening. But I think there's a momentary lapse in mental focus and not predicting what's going to happen and knowing what's under you. And then make no mistake about it, it is in his head that when I think there is a subconscious thought that goes through his mind when he's out in the lead like that, he's like, oh man, I can't make a mistake. I can't make a mistake. And it's between the ears at this point.
And he had the big mistake that he recovered from, and then the second one got him right away. It's almost like I escaped it, and then he didn't.
And that's when it comes to, we always talk about it, you can't make the same mistake twice. He almost lost it and had a nasty one on that dragon back. I mean, it was so close. So I think he was discombobulated. He's like, oh no, and he was probably thinking of that. And situations were running through his head like, oh my gosh, I almost did this. And then a quarter of a track later, he's laid out on the ground. So, you know, I just go back to, hey, listen, he's in a great spot from a points perspective, but look at how many points he's lost. And that's when it comes up to bite you when we get around Salt Lake City time, right. And it's a winner-take-all situation.
And as tight as it is, I mean, if it ended up that way, that would be a hard one to swallow.
I mean, as a fan of Chase Sexton, I want to see him figure it out.
Jason Thomas is going to give us an update on the whoops section, which played a huge role, I think, in everybody's night. So let's go to JT.
So I'm standing in these difficult whoops, and Cooper Webb made mention of these on the podium tonight, and he felt like he lost too much time here to get the win. And when the whoops break down like this, they have to make a decision. You want to blitz because that's the fastest way, but Webb didn't feel comfortable there, so he had to resort to jumping them early, and you watch Sexton and Tomac gap him. Well, that line started to come back in a little bit late, but as you can see, they're so deteriorated here, and when you can't blitz and you're forced to jump early, you lose too much time. So for Webb, it's kind of the same old story. The whoops are a little bit of a weakness for him. He feels like he maybe could have got a win if he could have blitzed early, but in the end, jumping still worked out.
Yeah, I think for sure jumping worked out better for a guy like Cooper Webb, who that's his Achilles heel, is getting through the whoops, as good as a guy like Eli Tomac or Chase Sexton, essentially the guys who he's racing to win this Monster Energy Supercross Championship. So if you're Cooper Webb, you have to be dedicated, in my opinion, to jumping through there. Even trying to blitz it through early, like you mentioned, JT, I don't think that's the way to go for Cooper Webb. Now, a guy like Eli Tomac, who is good through the whoops, a little bit better than Cooper Webb, or like Chase Sexton's really good through the whoop, you can get away with blitzing early on. But a guy like Cooper Webb, he has to find his line through the whoops and stick to it.
And he did, and it cost him maybe early, but
Yeah.
it did get him the second, and he's in range for this championship, where we will take it to Arlington. Let's take a look at the Yamaha track map for next week. RC, what do you see? What do you like?
First thing that I like, I love the first turn, a long start. So if a guy doesn't get a good jump out of the gate, he has some time to fix his poor reaction time. And I love that sweeping 180 corner. That is awesome. Gives the guys some room to wiggle. Got an over and under. One set of whoops. Looks like they're going to be relatively small, but when we go to Arlington, that dirt isn't very forgiving most of the time, so these guys are going to have to be on it. But more of a traditional track, but a great racetrack nonetheless.
And they'll be on a Triple Crown. I know you like the Triple Crown.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And the 250 East comes back very quickly, where we pick up off of the Hunter Lawrence, Nate Thrasher last corner pass. How excited are you to see Hunter Lawrence after that, I think, heroic final lap?
Yeah, that was an epic finish by Hunter Lawrence last week. So they had a weekend off. That's going to come to a blessing for some of those guys because they'll be able to work on a few things, maybe heal up if they were banged up. So looking forward to that. But, hey, listen, make no mistake about it. That Triple Crown format, it always produces. Puts guys on the hot seat, and they have to perform. I love watching the 450 guys. How do they manage that? And it's going to be a doozy.
No heats, no LCQs, just straight racing all night long. If it's anything like Anaheim, we're in for a wild one. Race Day Live is going to kick off at 2:30 Eastern. That's the practice and qualifying show. And then round number 7 from Arlington is 8 p.m. on Peacock, again, Eastern. You can can catch the SMX Insider post-race show on SuperMotocross.com, and the re-air February 27th for Arlington is 1 a.m. on CNBC. Fun night of racing, challenging track, crashes all over the place, but at the end of the night, it's Jet Lawrence who wins again in the 250 with a huge gap. And for Eli Tomac in the 450 division, he watches the 250 main, he studies the track, he knows it's going to be tough. And for Chase Sexton, he felt the wrath of the Oakland Supercross track. Eli Tomac had a late mistake, but he held on, he gets the win, he ties RC, and he takes it to Arlington.